the U.S. Open is underway. And even though it has been decades since his last match, tennis legend John McEnroe remains one of the sport's greatest athletes. He won 77 singles titles and 7 Grand Slams, including 4 U.S. Open titles. He also, though, is remembered for his outbursts between the lines, which some say overshadowed his greatness. Well, he joined our Linsey Davis to discuss his upcoming documentary, McEnroe.
From New York, John McEnroe.
You either loved him or hated him, but you could not be aware of John McEnroe.
I didn't want to be booed. I wanted everyone to clap for me. But if I wanted to be like my idols,
there's a foot over the line.
I did learn you gotta be a bit of a lunatic out there. You always hear, do whatever it takes to win, at any cost.
Championship to McEnroe.
Is it all worth it?
So why did you decide now was the time to do a documentary?
I suppose because someone wanted to do it. It's flattering to hear that people are interested enough. You're like, do people still want to hear about me at this point in my life? I'm sort of boring, and I mean, I still commentate, but I ain't playing too well. But it was important to me once I got all in on trying to do it that I could show the journey. Where I started started at 18 more or less when I went to Wimbledon the first time to where I am now at the ripe old age of, dare I say, 63. You know, the ups and downs of it all, the career, the marriage, the first one, the second, giving me that second chance, relationships with my father, my kids. I wanted them to see that as well because I think people can relate to that.
And so do you think it's a success? What you were once skeptical about, I'm not that interesting of a guy. In the end, do you feel it's pretty compelling?
I hope so. You know, from what I've been hearing, at least maybe they're buttering me up, but I'm hopeful that it's received well and raises a few eyebrows and perhaps a little food for thought, I think would be good as well. I mean, you know, Naomi Osaka has talked about mental health, and obviously it's a much bigger issue than it's been talked about in the past, but it's not the first athlete that's gone through difficult times or the ups and downs of trying to deal with the pressure of all that.
You talk about how in order to really compete, you have to have an edge. How does one get that edge?
To some extent, you're born with some intensity, drive to compete. You know, want to be the best at anything, no matter what it is. I was one of those people. I mean, I think my parents were too. They're perfectionists. And then you start to hone it, you know, I think as you get sort of into the professional realm of whatever you're doing. You know, I know I have big muscles, but they're not that big. I didn't intimidate a lot of players, but I had to come out with like an intensity and energy that they weren't used to, that sort of throw them and maybe make them panic a little bit. And my whole day would be focused around that couple hours to try to bring it. Like you see with Serena Williams to an extent, or Rafael Nadal. You're like, how the hell do these people try this hard? And that's the greatest quality any athlete can have. You
know, I subscribe to a school of thought that often your greatest strength is your greatest flaw. And you talk about in the documentary your greatest flaw being a perfectionist. But isn't that also your greatest strength?
Yeah, it's a fine line. Your greatest strength becomes a flaw. When I became a parent, I started to look at things differently. I was like, I'm not sure I'm setting quite the example I would like here. But my greatest flaw was my empathy. I've gotten better at it, but I'm not the most empathetic person, as my wife mentions to me quite often.
So how about the outbursts?
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious. That ball was on the line. Everyone knows it's in this whole stadium, and you call it out?
What is the source of the outbursts?
Some of it is upbringing and the energy I'm around. Some of it was a loud dinner table at my house. I was used to that. As you get better, you get away with more, you know, and you sort of be like, I'm not putting up with this. So I dug in my heels. Initially, it helped me a little bit. So I was like, look, do anything that helps. And people, if they're thrown off by it, that's their problem. But it got out of control at certain times in a way, and maybe just had a bit of a bad temper. A bit spoiled, a spoiled brat, as they say. But I get so worked up, and then people are like, you jerk, McEnroe! And I'm like, so, what am I supposed to say? Thank you. I'm just gonna not worry about it, right? No, I'd be like, screw you too. And it's like, how dare he say something to someone in the crowd? And I'd be like, what do you mean? This guy just called me a complete a-hole.
Does it ever bother you that at some point maybe that almost overshadowed your ability?
Yes, at some point, but also I may not be sitting here talking to you. And the other part of it is, if I hadn't been as good as I was, they would have said, get this guy out of here. But the fact that I was is what I think is the more interesting part of it. Connors was no angel, by the way, if people remember him. But I try to look at it as a positive now, honestly. I mean, there's not a day that goes by in my life that people don't say, you cannot be serious. You know, and I said that once in 15 years in my main career. I'd go on the champion circuit for 25 years. It was like, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't get paid.
You mentioned retirement a few times. I'm curious with regard to Serena Williams. How difficult is it to finally say, all right, I'm going to sit down now?
Well, you know, I'm not in the position that Serena is. I mean, she's like the top of the top. She's one of the greatest athletes, period, male or female, but to me, like the greatest female athlete ever. So it is tough to walk away from. She's talked about wanting to have more kids, which obviously for a woman is different than a guy, but she's got other interests, and so she's doing okay, and she'll be all right.
Yes.
You know, if people come up to me, hopefully I can impart some type of wisdom. You know, I'm there to try to help the people. As a commentator, you're a backseat driver, but you also want to sort of inspire them to try to be what they can be. But, you know, everyone's got people around them now. They're not calling me too often. Hey, John, what do you think of this? In a way, I would like that, but I have my own tennis academy right now in Randall's Island, and I have parents telling me how their kids should play tennis. So I'm like, next. But all in all, it ain't too shabby a life.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.